Hey everybody, welcome. This is Jack Sperner. Welcome to Bible 101 as we continue our study on the characteristics of God and who God is. Thank you all for watching. And today is a death match. God versus science. Okay, yeah, that's stupid. And it's it's not a big wrestling match, God versus science. The reality is God created science. Um, so, um, but to know what we're talking about, we need to get a definition of what science is. And I know that's a really big deal nowadays. Science has proven that God does not exist. We don't need God, we have science. Okay, we're going to, in a few minutes, find out how totally silly that statement is from a purely logical, analytical point of view, which unfortunately is how my brain works a lot. So we're going to go to the definition of science. Science is, I found this on a Google search. Science is the study of the structure and behavior of the physical world through observation and experiments. So it's the study of the behavior of the physical world through the observation and experiment. So you get an idea, you think things work this way, you do a few experiments and find out they do work this way, or they don't work that way. So, and most of the people, I'm going to say this, most of the people who say that there's some big death match, God versus science, are not scientists. You don't generally hear scientists saying that. So let me ask you, where in the definition that we just read of science does it mention the Bible or Jesus or God? Yeah, I don't have to wait very long. It does not mention that definition. And yet, like I said, there are people who say that that science has proven that God doesn't exist. Where in that definition does it mention that the goal of science is to discover whether God exists or not? It's not in the definition. It's not even what science does. But there are people who so desperately want there to be no God, they say science proves that there is no God. So I am going to use something that my grandchildren have heard and kids have heard. This is not so much a kid's lesson. I do talk about God versus science. In fact, one of the slides I put up there at the beginning, the death match, was from my children's ministry lessons. But I'm going to ask a question now. We're going to go into created things. So let's start with, now I make this up. My grandma did not make famous chicken soup, but I know that there's a few grandmas out there who have famous chicken soup. It's the famous grandma's chicken soup. And if we were to analyze that chicken soup, what do you think we would see if we did a analyzing of the components that's in that chicken soup? You would find water, you would find chicken broth, or maybe something directly out of a cooked chicken that is the same as broth, but not the same as you buy at the store. You would find salt, you would find chicken, you would find noodles, and you would find other stuff in there. But let me ask you this. In grandma's chicken noodle soup, as you analyze it, are you ever going to see grandma? No. If we were to look at great paintings and go into an art museum and go and admire the incredible artwork of the masters, are you going to find Picasso in the piece of art? Are you going to find the artist when you're looking at the Mona Lisa? You're not going to find the painter. They're not in the piece of art. What you will never find in anything that was created is the creator. The creator doesn't live in what they created. with my game, my board game that I made, Dungeons of Infinity. When you pick the box up and take the top off, you can look and look and look. You ain't going to find me. I'm not in it. So you see where I'm going here. What will you find if you analyze the earth or the universe, the stars? Are you ever going to find God when you look at those? I remember back in the 60s, a cosmonaut went up and was orbiting the earth and very proudly announced, "I am up here and I don't see God." Well, duh, no kidding. "I am looking at grandma's chicken soup and I don't see grandma." Shocking. Because the creator is never in their creation. But what do you find when you look at something that has been created by someone? You find order. You find purpose. You find that everything is put together for a reason. There's purpose behind it. So with grandma's chicken soup, there's obviously a recipe involved with grandma's chicken soup. She just didn't open the refrigerator and her spice cabinet and start randomly throwing stuff in there. You won't find pork in grandma's chicken soup. You won't find a spoon in grandma's chicken soup. You won't find a toothpick. You won't find containers for food in her chicken soup. So let me ask you this question. What do you see when you look at the earth and the universe? Do you see order or do you see total uncontrolled chaos? So yes, the soup has the fingerprints of the creator of the soup, and the world and the universe have the fingerprints of a creator. If you look at the human body, it is amazing. If you look at any animal, any of the systems, the fact that we are on a 24-hour cycle of light and dark, all of that shows order. And how does order come about? Order does not come about from chaos. I always want to say Psalm 119, but Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky proclaims the work of his hands." Essentially, what you're seeing when you look at the world is you see his creation. You see the evidence of order, of creation. Now, though people will tell you there's not order. Well, that's not true. There is order. We have human beings walking around. We have dogs walking around. We have cats walking around. Here's a dog right here. This is not an unordered thing. This is a very ordered thing. The fact that she has eyes that work and a nose that smells and a mouth that eats and teeth that chew. That's all order. It's not chaos. So here's the reality of God versus science. Science does not prove the existence of God. Science does not disprove the existence of God. You're studying the soup, you're not going to find the creator, so studying the soup doesn't prove or disprove the existence of grandma. But what it shows is that there was some evidence for a creator because there is order. Let's look at Colossians 1:16. "For in him all things were created." Now in him we're talking about Jesus. "Things on heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or authorities, all things have been created through him and by him." Now notice it says visible and invisible, because not all things are visible. There are sound waves happening right now coming out of my mouth, and you can't see them, you can hear them. There are other waves, like video waves, that are carrying this picture. You can't see them, but you can see the result of them. So essentially, going back to God versus science, the entire reason science exists is because there were Christians back a long time ago who saw that the world was orderly. And they thought, well, if God is orderly and the world is orderly, we can study this order to see how things work. So they studied an orderly world because they believed in an orderly God. It's not God versus science. Science as we've talked about, is not there to prove or disprove the existence of God. Science is there to see how things work. How does our bodies work? How do the stars work? How do objects interact with each other in physics? It doesn't prove or disprove the existence of God. But there is definite evidence that there is a creator. Just like there's a creator of computers and soup, that if there is order, there is a person, a being who gave it order. Science shows the wonderful complexity of the world that we live in. The heavens declare the glory of God. The sky proclaims the work of his hands. Thank you, everyone. Bible 101. Remember, science doesn't prove or disprove God. Science studies what is there and how it works. And God bless everybody. The heavens declare the glory of God. Bye.